Well, it's officially the end of an era. Apple has announced that whatever stock of the last remaining iPod, which is the last generation of the iPod Touch, once that stock is exhausted, that's it for the iPod. I think it's very, very difficult to actually know the magnitude of the impact of that product. It may, in fact, be even more important and more of a fixture in audio and consumer electronics than the original Walkman. I owned iPods, different generations, Nano, first generation, next generation, one of the early ones that actually had a spinning hard drive in it, and then I think this is a first generation Touch. And what's interesting to note is obviously the fact that you could now digitally have hundreds, if not thousands, of tracks from your music collection on a portable device. You didn't have to lug around, cassette tapes or CDs and have them in your backpack or whatever so they get banged around and damaged. You could change up your music anytime you wanted very, very easily. I really think that this revolutionized the way people listen to music, that they were able to move around essentially with, in some cases, their entire music library. And it also completely reinvigorated the portable audio market, just like, with the headphone market that was tied with it, in the same way that the original Walkman did. What's interesting to note, and what I always found fascinating about the iPod, was that it originally was a purist device. It was made for playing audio and music files. Why this was critical is that a lot of time and effort was spent into making the audio quality excellent of those devices. And there's still many people that find that those original early generation models that used the spinning hard drive actually sounded the best. And some of the DACs used in those products in the early days, incredibly good, as good as in a lot of other pieces of electronics of we'd call more high-end audio components were built into them. The iPod essentially made Apple into the juggernaut that it is today, and there's no denying that. The problem that I always found later on in later years, particularly with the Touch, is that they started to dilute that original idea of it being a pure portable music device. And we started to see apps, we started to see health monitoring and step tracking, and by the time the Touch came along, essentially it's a smartphone without the phone. It seemed that not only the audio quality, but the way that audio was handled and file structure and all of that to look at your music library was taking a backseat. So maybe it's not a bad thing that product is going away. Basically, any smartphone these days can do everything that the last generation of the iPod could do. But I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear some of your history. Did you have one of those first generation right out of the gate iPods that didn't even work initially on Windows computers? Now, Steve Jobs was vehemently opposed to making them compatible with Windows, but I mean, he had to give that one up, frankly. Windows still has the majority share of the market, and the only way at the time that you could get music on these devices was plugging them into a computer. We didn't have, streaming and the network capability on those early units. So I'd love to hear your comments. I mean, are you going to lament the loss of the iPod? It's a massive, massive moment in the audio and consumer electronics industry. I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you, as always, for watching.